Well, it's Friday, and Sunday is soon to come, Lord willing. And for the thought today, really for the Friday focus this week, really just want to share a thought, kind of to put into perspective something, at least that's been on my mind recently. When I think about Jesus and think about his suffering and his death and his life, and I guess in some ways, growing up and, studying about Jesus and learning all that he did, and even when I read it now, I oftentimes, my perception of Jesus is that he was, somewhat of an older man. At least in my mind, a lot of times I don't really picture Jesus so much as a young man. I don't know if it's for some reason I always kind of picture him, a little bit older, I guess. But something I've been thinking about is the reality of Jesus' age is, interestingly enough, and at least for me, and the reason I've been thinking on it even more is when Jesus died, when Jesus went through all that he did in his suffering and death, he was actually about 33 years old. And why that's been on my mind so much recently is right now I am actually 33 years old. And there's something about that of just thinking, for me, it just really causes me to stop and really puts into perspective the reality of what Jesus went through, and thinking for myself that I'm 33, and right now, if you will, if I were Jesus, this would be the time that I was going to be going through everything he did, being arrested, being mocked, and being spat on, being beaten, being crucified. And even before that, thinking of my age now and even the last few years, because, kind of how we know that in Luke chapter 3, Luke 3:23 tells us that Jesus began his ministry at about 30 years of age. And then his ministry lasted for about 3 years. So he was about 33 years old when he died. But he began his ministry at 30. And if that was me, if I, a few years ago, in the past few years, if I were Jesus, I would have been teaching and doing miracles and just thinking of, I'm a younger man, and that was Jesus. And Jesus was on the scene as a 30-year-old young man who revealed the Word of God, who performed many miracles, and then was willing to give his life on the cross for you and for me. And I think there's something helpful and special to really put this into view of when we think back on Jesus and his ministry. And ultimately age doesn't so much matter. It doesn't matter if Jesus was a young man, a middle-aged man, an elderly man. But there's something about adding that to what we know and to the story of Jesus and his life, and really just thinking. Again, for me, personally, right now that I'm the exact age that Jesus was, and really, again, putting myself into Jesus' shoes and thinking what it must have been like to do all that he did, to go through all that he did. It just helps really think about that, and really is a sobering thought, a very penetrating thought, to really put myself there. And so I just wanted to share this with you this week, and something to think about this through this weekend and on Sunday, and really every day, but always remembering what Jesus did for us, what he was willing to do, all that he went through. And as we gather together on Sunday and we partake of the Lord's Supper, and maybe this will be a helpful thought, maybe something you've not really thought about, or just a reminder that maybe when you're partaking of the Lord's Supper and thinking about Jesus and could think about that 33-year-old man, the Son of God, not just any man, the Son of God, who was willing to live and to die, to give his life for us, and thankfully, by the power and grace of God, was raised from the dead so that we could be saved. Think on that. Focus on Jesus, and focus on what his life, his death, his resurrection means for us today. God bless.